All right. Deb, are you there?
I am.
All right. I don't think your webcam is on. All I see is your photo.
It's on because the light's on. Let me see. It says on air. Is screen share on? Turn webcam. How about
Okay.
now?
Yep, there we go. Can you still see me?
Yes, you are down in the corner.
All right. Awesome. Well, welcome. Not sure if anybody is joining us live right now, but I have Debbie Lamb that is in the house tonight with us at Capital City RIA, and we've got a very, very awesome evening planned, and we are super, super excited to be doing this live interview with you. And I see several people coming on. If you guys could do me a favor, just say, hey, give me a shout out. Let me know who's here. Would love to know who's joining us. It's really important for us to see who's coming on. All you got to do is just type in the chat box. Say, hey, this is Tammy in the house. This is Stephen in the house. I see a lot of you joining. So if you could do me a favor and give me a shout out, I would greatly appreciate it. Hey, Kevin, we got Kevin in the house. So excited. Thanks for joining. I see a lot of others that are joining on. Take a moment. There's Brian, Anise, Jen. Hey, Jen and Bridget, Cynthia, JP is the place to be. He is here. Christopher Terrell. Hey, CJ here. Hey, CJ, how are you? Welcome. Love that you guys are joining us, taking time out of your schedule. Thanks so much. This is Tammy here with Capital City RIA. Hey, JP. So glad that you're here. Hey, Christian, welcome. We've got Debbie live. Debbie's with our multi-unit inner circle, and she's there waving. She's so excited, and she absolutely should be with all the crazy success she's got going on in her life, which we're going to talk about tonight. So as you're joining in, just take a moment and let me know that you're here. If you could just give a shout out with your name, maybe where you're calling in from, that would be awesome. Make sure you guys can all hear me okay. I actually had to go to Starbucks because our Wi-Fi is down. So if you all could let me know that there's not a lot of background noise for you, I'm a little paranoid about that. I would really appreciate it. So, hey, Jonathan, welcome. John from Arlington, Jonathan Nova, welcome. We got a lot of Johns, JPs, CJs in the house tonight. So super, super excited. All right. Well, Debbie, as we are ramping up and getting into the summer, and as you and I have talked, I have just been in awe of all of your success and all that you have done. And it is such an honor to be here tonight. Thank you for your time. I know how busy you are. And this is my opportunity to acknowledge you, to celebrate you, and to acknowledge just the extraordinary woman that you are, all that you give, all that you do, all that you have yet to continue to do. And I just wanted to take this time for you to be able to share with everyone about you and what you've done and that it is possible. So we are live, and this webinar will be available for those of you that maybe weren't able to join, although I know all of you that are here in the house tonight are here, and I so appreciate it. Just want to let you know, because we are live, this is obviously about an interview with Debbie and all that she's got going on in her life as a multi-unit investor. But if at any time you have a question that you'd like to present to Debbie, please feel free to type that question in the box. How you feel, questions that you may have are very important to me. I know they're very important to Debbie. So please do not hold back. Those questions are very important. They obviously can support everyone else. So excited that you're here. Debbie, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So I want to welcome everyone again to Tuesdays with Tammy. This is the multi-unit inner circle live case study with none other than the very, very famous Miss Debbie Lamb.
Yeah.
And Debbie, I know it's not been that long that you've actually been investing in real estate hardcore like you are. When did you actually get started?
Started August 2016.
So not even 2 years ago.
No.
Wow, not even 2 years ago. And how in that less than 2 year time period, you have been so busy with the strategy that you have found that really, really works for you, which is both multi-unit investing and then fixing flipping. And so within these last 2 years, how many units have you acquired total, or could we say how many units do you have total in your portfolio?
Total is 8 units.
I think you're missing one. Yeah, because one's under contract.
Yeah. Yeah. 9 units. I'll say 8 that are buy and hold, and then 1 flip.
Awesome. I know there is a little bit of music in the background, Anise. My Wi-Fi is actually down at my home office, so I ran out to Starbucks. Is it too loud for you? Is it bothering you? If so, I can actually step outside. Can you share with me if you just hear a little bit of music in the background, or is it absolutely too loud and it's bothering you? Just let me know, and either way, I can either step outside, I don't mind, or this is part of being an investor, being flexible and willing to change. It's okay. Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Brian. It's great. Just a little distracting. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. As investors, we absolutely have to be flexible and willing to do things a little bit differently when circumstances arise. So you have 9 units total, and the 9th is and did just go under contract, and that was one of your fix and flips. Yes. So before we get into that, though, I know how hardworking you are. I know you're a realtor, but can you give everybody just a little bit of background about Debbie? Who is Debbie? Where does Debbie come from? What's some fun facts about Debbie? What kind of work does Debbie do? Just who are you?
So in regards to work, I am in the IT field. I do federal government contracting. So managing software development. And as far as fun fact, that would be, I love to ride on my motorcycle. That is my stress release, and it's just so enjoyable. Until you've been on a motorcycle, I don't think you can really relate to nature, so to speak.
And we're getting ready to ride together soon.
Yep.
Yes, we are. What else do you enjoy doing other than real estate? Something about you.
Other than real estate, spending time with my family, anything. Oh, fishing. I found that out within the past couple of years. Because me and my fiance would go fishing, and it's just so relaxing also.
Awesome. So the fun things that you like to go do, it sounds like for me, is to be able to totally disconnect.
Yes.
Absolutely. Right? Because you said that you work full time and you're still managing to do multi-unit investing, fixing, flipping. We're going to get into all that and how you manage and juggle and so on and so forth. So being able to totally just disconnect and go ride your bike and feel the wind in your hair and the noise and chaos behind your back, or sit on the banks of the river, throwing the fishing rod in. I totally get it. Thanks for sharing that. So what I can share with you about Debbie is that I met Debbie about almost 2 years ago. And when I met Debbie, she was someone that was more shy, maybe not shy, more quiet, more reserved. But what I noticed is that she took all of the information in, and she was always present. She always showed up for our calls. Whenever she had questions, she always reached out to me. Um, but I noticed immediately that she started to implement and take action on everything that we were talking about in our 2-day intensives, or everything that we were talking about on a coaching call or a webinar, or just the one-on-one. And before I knew it, she had called and shared with me that she had a 3-unit under contract. So Debbie, can you take me through that multi-unit acquisition? Because that was a very, very exciting acquisition, and definitely I want to dive right into that one first off.
Okay. So with that particular acquisition, what Tammy didn't know is that I was up nights doing research, trying to find, what I thought would be a good fit for me as far as property wise. I happened to come in contact with the realtor who said, "Oh, okay, we have this multi-unit." She showed me this particular multi-unit. It
Hey,
wasn't one
Deb,
that yeah.
can you raise your volume up a little bit, or
Oh,
just
okay.
speak up a little bit?
Okay. How about now?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So in this case, the realtor showed me the one property that I thought would be a fit for me. Found out that the owner had a portfolio. So we went, took a look at a few of his properties, and of those properties, I selected one to actually purchase, and it happened to be a triplex. Had long-term tenants in it. So Tammy went with me, of course, my first venture into this one. So she went with me. We actually negotiated right on the street with the realtor. Um, and had the rent rolls, had all the information that we needed, did the analysis to ensure that this was the best fit for me. So within that time frame, we went ahead, put the contract on that one, and had developed a good relationship with the realtor, wherein after we had closed on that particular one, the realtor called me about 2 months later and informed me about another property.
Let's stop there for a moment. I want to go back to the actual relationship with the realtor, because that's an interesting conversation. So we had seen the whole entire portfolio, and obviously it was up to Debbie how many buildings she wanted to acquire, put offers on. And, there were some that were nicer, some that had quite a bit of deferred maintenance. And she said, I'm just not sure if I'm quite ready for that yet, but I like this one. And I said, okay, great, let's go for it. So the realtor actually hadn't even seen any of these properties yet. Debbie had just met this realtor. And when we walked out into the street, all of us, to get into our vehicles, the realtor said, here's the buyer agency agreement. I want you to sign this buyer agency agreement. I was like, wait a minute, time out. We just met you. We don't really know anything about you yet. We'll be more than happy to sign a confidentiality agreement, but we're not willing to sign a buyer's agency agreement. We don't want to be locked into working with you for the next 6 months or a year in case, we find other properties or this doesn't work out. And we ended up standing there, building rapport, working on starting to build that relationship. She was a little gun shy because as a realtor, that's what they're taught to do, right, Deb? Mm-hmm. But we ended up agreeing to work with one another, trust one another, and that Debbie was actually looking to acquire additional properties. And so Debbie agreed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Deb. You did agree, though, to sign a buyer agency agreement just on that 3-unit, right? Didn't right. We do that? Right.
Yeah, but we changed the terms on that.
Right, but we changed the terms on it. And then the most fascinating thing to me, this was staggering. When we went to closing, I was actually at closing with Debbie. Anise, I will get to your question in just 1 second, okay? When we went to closing, what was absolutely amazing is the seller was sitting over to my left. Debbie was over to my right, and the title company or the settlement agent was on the other side of the table. And I was looking at the HUD one, And as I'm looking at the HUD one, I just happened to glance over, looking around the table or whatever. And the settlement agent's going down the HUD one, and I'm keeping my eye on Debbie. And I look over and I see this check, a very large check, by the way, from Bank of America made out to the title company. And it was for, what was it, Debbie? Almost $22,000. And I said to myself, wait a minute, like something's not right here. This seller has owned this portfolio for over 40 years, guys. Yes, over 40 years. He should own these properties free and clear. Why in the world would he be bringing a check that large to settlement? And 23,000 may not sound like a lot of money, but it is a lot of money, especially when Debbie was buying a 3-unit, multi-unit triplex for how much, Deb?
68. Say around 68, 69.
Not 680,000. We're talking $68,000 for a 3-unit triplex with residents in it. I just want to make sure I'm correct.
Yes.
So this seller is bringing a check, guys, to the table for $23,000 on a $60-some thousand acquisition. And I'm like, I'm just going to shut my mouth. I am not going to say anything until the end of the settlement to see what this is all about, because maybe it's for another deal. I don't know. But I'm like, if this seller is bringing that much money to the table on a $68,000 acquisition and he's owned it for 40 years, then wow. That's all I'm going to say is, oh my God. So sure enough, we get all the way to the end of the HUD one, and the seller hands the check over for this property. So he sold it for $68,000, and he literally had to bring $23,000 to the table after owning the property for 40 years. What does this tell you? Obviously, he over leveraged it. He used it as an ATM machine. He pulled equity out of the property and had a loan on it, whatever it is that he had. But it was just amazing to me and taught me another lesson as well, that you cannot prejudge any acquisition. You cannot make any determination on a seller's motivation. And there are sellers out there that are just so burnt out or so done, which the seller was, and they will pay money at the table to get rid of this problem, this challenge that is in their life that they just don't want to deal with anymore. And that's really what this was. So, all right, Deb, we have a question. You ready?
Okay.
All right. So, Ananies, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly. If I'm not, please forgive me. Do you have financing for the first property beforehand? Did you have financing for the first property beforehand? Yes, let's talk about that. Where did you come up with the $68,000 and your earnest money deposit to pay for this property?
So that said, part of the money came from an inheritance, and then also part of the money I had via savings. So I combined the two. I had started down the path of doing hard money, and I decided I needed to have a backup plan just in case. For some reason, the financing wasn't conducive to what I thought it should be. So in this case, I actually had the money to go ahead and get this deal done. I think what I ended up bringing 212. Yeah. So we just got the deal done.
Awesome.
And the amazing thing on that day that we went to closing, this is what surprised me the most, is that I was told at the table that I needed to go to the property management office because the rent checks were due and they were there waiting for me. So on that same day, I collected around $1,200, which was unexpected.
And she leaned over and she goes, Tammy, what should I do? And I said, go get your rent, go get your money, and then go put it in the bank. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So awesome. Hey, Deb, are you able to pull that mic up just a little bit more? I don't mean to keep bugging you.
Okay. How about now?
Perfect.
I'll talk a
Or
little,
just
little
talk a little
louder.
bit
Yeah.
louder. Perfect. I know you've got a real soft voice, but I just want to make sure we all can hear you.
Okay.
All right. Anenzi, thank you for the pronunciation of your name. That means a lot. Thank you. All right. John's got a question, Debbie. Did the property lose value over time? What's the value of the property? You bought it for $68,000, but what is the value of that property today?
So let's back up a little bit. I purchased it for 68. They had it listed for 80. The current value of that property now is listed somewhere between, I just had it recently appraised, so it's around 90, 95K. So where this particular property is located, it may not be in the best of neighborhoods, but again, listening to Tammy, you look for those cranes, you look for where there's development activity, and because of that, the value is increasing.
Absolutely. And Debbie, little did we know that your property is, I think, 3 blocks, if
Yes.
maybe it's only 2 blocks from our building. Just to share with you, this isn't about me. This is all about Debbie. But I just want to put this in perspective when we talk about multi-unit. Because yes, it is all about the location and doing your due diligence and doing your research. And in part of doing your research is knowing what is going to be happening in the area in the next projected 5 years or 10 years. And Debbie's done a lot of that research. So I knew 10 years ago on, if you're familiar with Baltimore, that just happens to be this market. On the west side of Baltimore, I knew massive revitalization, empowerment zones, regentrification was going to be going on. And I talked about this. Debbie listened and heard me talking about this. And it literally is just 2 blocks away from where our building is. 10 years ago, we bought a building in, 2008 for $375,000. In October of just this past year, that same building appraised for just under $2.6 million. So that this city is literally moving block by block by block by block towards us. The cranes are up. You see the revitalization going on. You see the demolition going down. You see new development coming up. And it is on the west side of Baltimore. So she's already increased value by $30,000 just based on the appraisal. If we were to do the income approach, she's probably closer to 100. I guarantee it. And Debbie's strategy is not, to flip this property and make a profit on it. Debbie's strategy with this is buy and hold, long-term buy and hold, and for the cash flow. And she's going to explain her strategy to you and why she's doing her investment strategy the way that she is as a multi-unit investor. So no, the property did not lose value, John. I hope that answered your question. All right. How much maintenance, Debbie, was needed on the triplex when you purchased it?
So there was quite a bit of deferred maintenance. And for me, if I had to look at it percentage wise, it's probably like 2% of the value that I purchased. So I spent about maybe another 10,000 doing some upgrades to ensure that everything was okay. I also, again, listening to Tammy, had done my pro forma and had decided year 1, year 2, year 3, as far as the rents are concerned, when I'm going to increase the rent and what activities or enhancements I'm going to do to the property. So say, for example, this year, it's a matter of going in and replacing their appliances and upgrading their cabinets, which will then allow me to adjust the rent accordingly.
Right. And when Debbie bought the property, I just want to make sure everyone understands this property was occupied. All 3 of the units were occupied with very long-term standing residents. 2 of them had been there. Debbie, was it over 20 or 25 years?
Yeah, 2 are there for about 15 plus years.
Okay. Yeah, I know it was a very, very long time. So there was some deferred maintenance. The standard of the former owner was not quite the same standard of what Debbie's standard is of quality and care. So it may look like a lot of deferred maintenance to her, but we set up an investment strategy over 5 years. And year 1, she's going to do X. Year 2, she's going to do Y. Year 3, she's going to do X. These are either it's deferred maintenance, repairs and improvement, or some capital improvement. But the residents are very happy. They're all paying their rent on time. There's so many awesome things that we did. But yes, there are multi-unit properties that exist for $68,000 that have residents in them that are cash flowing at the settlement table where the seller actually brings a check to the table. It does exist. All right. So Moses says, where is this property located? Moses, the property is in Baltimore City, Maryland. The number one market for flipping, buy and hold, property rate of return in the country. And right behind it is Clayton County, Georgia. So Baltimore has been on my radar for the past 12 years. I've been sharing this over and over again with all of my inner circle, with all the members of our community, how hot Baltimore is. And so Debbie heard this. She jumped on it. It's one of her big markets, and she's crushing it, guys. She is just, wait till you hear her story. She's on fire. John has another question. Is it Section 8, Deb? Any of your residents Section 8? No, these are all, so they're all market rent.
All market rent, all working.
Right. But one of the value add and the value plays, Deb, is that the rents were under market value. And so by Debbie, over the next couple of years, enhancing the value, putting in new cabinets, putting in new appliances, she will therefore be able to increase their rents and get them up to market rent, which of course is going to give her more cash flow, which at the end of the day is going to give her even a higher value. And it's just, the strategy. It's what we do. It's how we do it. But, as we keep rolling through these questions, I want to keep interviewing Debbie because, like I said, the story is just absolutely amazing. Debbie, the questions are being fired in. I'm so excited. So get ready. All right. So, and then Z says, are you using a property manager or are you managing them yourself?
So that's a story right there. I started doing the property management myself because I wanted to see if I could actually do it, okay, and get some experience other than what I already had in it. Additionally, as I started acquiring properties, I noticed that was not my strength. So I, in turn, passed it on to my fiance, who has experience in doing property management. So now he's handling the property management for the properties.
Great answer. What I also want to share is that I share with all my students and anybody that works with us in Inner Circle or that's a part of our community is that I feel, in my years of experience, that it is so critical in that first year that you self-manage so that you can get your arms around your property, you can understand the systems, you can understand your investment strategy, you can understand the processes, because for you to hand over anything, even if it's a single family home, over to a management company, if you can't direct the management company, if you can't manage the manager, if you can't articulate to them what you expect, what you want in your lease, what type of a tenant you want, what level of repairs they're allowed to go to, if you've not managed yourself, how can you articulate, guide, and direct a management company? So yes, Debbie's still in it, but Debbie's got a soft heart. And Debbie realized that her niceness could very well become a barrier to her. So she decided that it was much, much easier for her to step away from that and have a gatekeeper, and that is her fiance. And it's business. It's not personal. It's just business. And they're a great team. They work incredibly well together. So another question Rupert has is, so over the last 2 years, are you at 100% occupancy? If so, can you share what is your projected gross rental income on all your units?
On all the units, I would say at this point, I am at 100%. As we go through this, like, for example, that was the first one. Within about another 2 months, the realtor had come back and informed me about another one. Okay. So that happened actually to be her house. And as we were going to that particular house to see what was on the block, I actually saw another vacant property, which happened to be a duplex. So I did some research on that one because it was not listed. It was just a vacant property, and was able to actually acquire that one. Okay. That one did need some work. In addition to the single family row home that's on that street, we were able to also get that one also. So we did the work on the duplex, got it rented out. And matter of fact, I think it took us maybe, I would say a week and a half, maybe to 2 weeks to identify tenants. Um, and so with the duplex, that one is rented out. Also with the single family row home, that one I have rented that one out to a person that is doing assisted living. So that's where it's basically I've now rented that one out to a business.
So let's hold that one for a little bit later because that's more of a master lease. That's a little bit more advanced. Is that cool, Deb?
Yes.
All right. So a comment or a statement by Lewis. Even with the population leaving the city, Baltimore still provides these returns. Lewis, the population is not leaving the city. Actually, in the past 5 years, if you look at census and if you look at data, there has been a huge resurgence in the population in Baltimore. This is one of the reasons and the facts why Baltimore is the number one market in the entire country today and has been for the past year. It's the number one market in the country for literally over 100% rate of return for property owners. And it's also the highest rate of return for flipping, okay? Thirdly, it's the number one city in the entire country for Airbnb in terms of rate of return. So, you've got Baltimore City and then you've got Baltimore County. Baltimore City is a whole totally different ball game than it is in Baltimore County. And yes, you've got to do your due diligence. You've got to do your homework. You've got to do your research. Are there still some areas of Baltimore that are up and coming? Maybe C-class neighborhoods or D-class neighborhoods? Yes. But overall, Baltimore as a whole, if you look at all of the stats, we did a webinar on 2018 best neighborhoods and stats. And in 2017, Baltimore was number 2. 2018, Baltimore was number 1. And the facts and the figures are out there about the massive resurgence in the population growth in Baltimore. So they may have left, but you have demographic migration shifts that occur in all cities, depending on what is going on. And all cities are either emerging, declining, or stabilized at any given time. So Baltimore is an absolutely amazing market to be investing in right now. And not to mention, it's, hands down, probably the number one city or the largest city in all of Maryland. It's the second largest employer for government employees in the state. So, when you do your research and you do your due diligence, you absolutely can find this information out. And that is what Debbie has done. So Sharon asked Debbie, is this a classification B or C property? The 3-unit triplex.
The triplex? I would say B because it's up and coming. Like I said, a few blocks down, you have University of Maryland doing their buildings and supporting their communities. You have the hospitals that are surrounding it. So yeah, it's definitely up and coming.
Okay, so Jen has a question, and Jen, I'm actually going to share your question because Debbie shared that she works full time. And one of the questions that I've had with Debbie is, Debbie, you work full time. You're in government contracts, so obviously you have a very important role, a very important position, and it's doable. I know it can be done, that we can invest full time, that we can create wealth, that we can rehab houses, that we can create independence and financial freedom, and we can work full time. So what Jen wants to know is, how do you balance working full time and managing rehab properties? She is the master. Check it out. Listen up, because this woman is freaking crushing it, guys. Crushing it with the way that she balances out her life. Listen up.
Okay, so first I'm going to say it does take motivation. It does take commitment. It does take discipline, and it does take being dedicated to what you're doing. I personally enjoy doing this. So once I come home from a 9 to 5, or in my case, 7 to 3, um, I come home ready to start the joy part of my day, okay, where I'm working for me, okay? So if you can allow yourself a minimum of maybe just 2 hours just to get on the computer or to do some type of research, it's doable. It's very doable. Um, for me, that's what has worked thus far. I do take breaks. I will admit that, because once you acquire the property, you're going to have to manage it through the rehab process. But it's just doable. That's all I can say. You just have to be committed and be motivated to do it.
And Debbie's a little bit more reserved and sometimes all the details. So I have to interject here because I know a little bit more about her. So this is what I can
I
tell you.
don't sleep much either.
Yeah, she's not about being, a show off. She's not. So this is my night to acknowledge her and brag on her, because she's just so amazing. And it's just such a journey and an honor, to be with her, and see all of her success. So, Debbie literally gets up at 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning, and she's out the door. She's at her desk. This morning we were on the phone together at 7 a.m. I know she may be talking with vendors, that early in the morning while she's at work. She may sometimes not be able to take phone calls depending on the project or what it is she's working on. But I know she's constantly checking her phone. She's constantly checking her emails. And then, like she said, she gets off at 3. From 3 o'clock, she takes the suit off. She puts on the baseball hat, the blue jeans, and the T-shirt, and gets in another vehicle. And she's out the door to go live the life that she's passionate about, that she's most committed to. Sometimes she doesn't get home till 10, 11, sometimes even midnight, depending on what it is. But it's because she knows the wealth that she's creating. She's creating her future. She's passionate about it. She loves taking ugly houses and repositioning them. She loves supporting her residents and changing their lives. And you don't, when you love what you do, you don't work,
Right.
right?
Yep.
It's a joy. It's something that excites you, and knowing that 30-minute commute back home, she's like, yes, we're gonna go do this, and I'm gonna check on the contractors, and I get to check on my residents, whatever it may be. So it's literally living two separate lives and changing the hat from one to another, but it's by choice. It's because that's what her and her fiance are dedicated to. It's what they're committed to doing. And she knows that it can be done in 5 years. That's the average. It can be done on a very fast track in 3 years. It can be done on a longer track in 7 years, but the average is 5. We all have lives. We may have kids. We may have families. We may, have fiancés. We may have a job. But Debbie shared with me this morning when I asked her, I said, are you on target to hit your goal and your dream in that 5-year period? And what was your answer?
Yes. And
Yes.
actually, after you asked me that question, I went back and did my calculations. So another thing that Tammy said was make sure you have a plan. Make sure you set your objectives and your goals, whether it's financially, personally, spiritually, however you break that up. Make sure you put that plan in writing. So that's what I did. And when I looked at everything, I couldn't, even after these other transactions have come through, it's gone beyond what the plan was. Um, so again, it's just, with me, it's a joy to do this.
Every time I turn around, she's calling or texting me and saying, hey, I just found another property. Hey, I just picked this one up. Hey, I just got this one. So one of the questions, Deb, is can you explain how you got over, or how someone could get over the financial barrier for a down payment or closing costs?
Joint venture. That's the other thing I have learned. There are quite a few people out there who are willing to be your credit partner, or if you have the money but you're hesitant about doing this on your own, I would highly recommend doing a joint venture with someone. At this point in time, because me personally, I never thought anything about a joint venture. I thought that I would have to have the financing myself. Yes, you're going to have to obtain the financing at some point in time, and if you're building that up, that's fine. But I've found that people have approached me to be a joint venture partner with them, whether it's credit, whether it's money, or whether I'm actually managing the project myself.
And also, Christian, what I can share with you is that a lot of the barriers is right here. It's right between these two ears and these two lobes, and it's right here from the heart. We are our biggest barrier. We are the one that gets in our way. And if this is something you're committed to, that you want to do, you have to just do it. You just have to jump in. And I'm not saying you have to do it alone, working with someone, having a coach, having a mentor, being a part of, like the inner circle. Debbie's a part of the inner circle. Working with others that have done this before you, that can show you the way. But the earnest money deposit sometimes isn't any more than 1%. I share with all of my inner circle, I share with you, it is absolutely possible to put a project under contract or acquire a deal with a $500 to $1,000 to a 1% EMD. I have two young guys that literally just put an offer, a letter of intent on a very, very large multi-unit property for $1,000, and so that then gives them time to come up with either the funding, a joint venture partner, a lender, however it is that they're going to get this deal funded, but that gives them the time to do that. You could also put down an initial earnest money deposit of, let's say, $1,000. And then after your inspections, after all the contingencies are removed, after X has happened, you could then agree in your letter of intent or your contract to put an initial earnest money deposit down. So again, you're buying yourself some time to be able to do that. And what I can share with you, it's hard to believe. I didn't believe it either. When the deal shows up, when the deal is there, the money will show up. It always does. The spirit, God, universe, and the great divine will always take care of you when you do exactly what it is that you're supposed to do and when the numbers work. This isn't it. We all get emotional because it's very exciting. Don't get me wrong. But this is, especially in multi-unit investing, this is a numbers game. And what I've shared with everybody, I've shared it with Debbie, take the emotion out of it. Do the numbers work? Do your due diligence. Do your sniff test. Does it make sense? If it makes sense, then put the letter of intent on it. The letter of intent is not a contract. Get this thing tied up. Then let's do some more research. Then let's do some more due diligence. And then if it truly makes sense to you, then let's go all the way and take this thing under contract. So obviously we can talk until the cows come home on this. I am going to be doing a 2-day event on June 23rd and 24th because there's only so much I can share this evening, and I want to be respectful of Debbie. I don't want to make this about me. I want to make this all about her and sharing with you. And you guys have a lot of questions, and those questions are so important. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. But June 23rd and 24th, Alexis is actually going to post the link where you can go sign up. And on day one, we're just going to be sharing a full day, hands-on, full out on what it takes to be a multi-unit investor, how to get started. And then secondly, on day two, I'm putting you on a bus and I'm going to take you to some 2 units, 3 units, a big 25,000 square foot apartment building, possibly even an assisted living. If Debbie's open, we may go buy a couple of her properties so that you can see it in action. I have to touch it, I have to see it, and I have to feel it. It's how I learn this business. And I feel that when I can get you on the street, when I can show you what is going on, it makes it doable, it makes it real. So Alexis is going to post the link for you guys to go sign up. I am going to make this webinar available on a replay. I'm going to email it out to everybody. We're here to serve. We're here to help in any way that we can. So Nicole has got a great question. And obviously you and I have had a lot of conversations about this, Debbie. You just seem to have this aura about you when it comes to GCs and tradesmen. And I don't know what your secret sauce is or the magic water you're drinking, but what are you doing to find, this is a big word, trustworthy. Nicole says, how do you find trustworthy contractors? My secondary question to that is, what are you doing and how are you building the relationship? I know they've not all been good. But every time we talk, you are sharing very positive reviews about the guys that you found. Can you share with us initially? I know what you did, but can you share? What did you do? How did you reach out? What are you doing now? And just spell it.
So initially, I sought out contractors. There was one individual who actually had a cold call. Basically, he sent me an email. And when I started doing renovation on another project, I just reached out to him. My MO for contractors is I'll give you the small jobs. I want to see how you perform on those before I give you a large job. Because if you can perform on the smaller ones and understand what my needs are and what I do or what my expectations are, then I still have to manage you, yes, on the larger ones, but it may not be as much as hands-on activity involved. Okay. So what I did is I followed up with that particular contractor who did the cold call, basically. He worked out wonderful for me. I then, as we got moved on and went through closing, there's a lot of networking involved here. I would communicate not only with the property owners to find out who did they have managing. If they didn't have a property management company, who did they utilize for their contractors? I also have friends who are contractors. So I was networking with them. I've had to fire contractors because they weren't working out. They were either not performing up to my expectations or trying to draw things out. So, Tammy, I tell you, when it comes to business like that, I am pretty much, okay, we got to be done by this date. That's part of what I do at work. I plan things out. So I say, okay, we got to be done by this date. Here's the contingency period. I don't share that with them, but I know what my contingency period is. If you go past that date or that line, then something's wrong. And we need to either collaborate, work together to try to get this project finished. And if you don't finish it, so be it. There are other contractors out there that I can utilize. That's my take on it.
And
So-
Deb, but you literally, which I personally would honestly, I'm being very transparent here. I would never have thought to go to Angie's List or Home Advisors. I just wouldn't have. You know, it's always been about referral. Who do you know? Who can you refer me to? When you shared with me that you went to Home Advisors, I think more, right, than Angie's List,
Yeah.
and that you had really great success from that, I've tapped into that. And I thought that was fascinating. So has that and does that still continue to serve you well with electricians, plumbers, whatever it is you may need?
Definitely with plumbers because, like I said, basically all the trades. Because now I don't really go searching. I have a list of people that I can just pick up the phone and call and ask them, okay, hey, I got this job. Do you want to, participate in it? So yeah, and
Yeah.
every project you go on, you want to make sure you identify your contractors. Just again, just talking with people. You may have contractors that just focus on, for example, just carpeting. Well, talk to that person. They may know someone who can get you a good deal on appliances or who's a good HVAC person, who's a good electrician. So you definitely want to talk, just communicate with them.
And I know one of the things that we've talked about, Deb, is never, ever, ever letting any contractor know when you're going to show up. And so we always are doing surprise visits. I've got a 5 unit that's part of a very large portfolio, a very large building, I mean. And my contractors, I kid you not, they are 2.5 months behind. It's been one thing after another. It failed the electrical inspection, and I had to bring in some big guns, and now we're holding their feet to the fire. They're being penalized on a per day per diem. It's difficult. It's not easy, but it can be very, very simple when you have the right systems, when you have the right paperwork, when you're following the process. Is it always fun and glamorous? No, I wish I could say it was, but anytime you're dealing with others, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know what it is after 20 years of just dealing with contractors, is that, some just work out really well and some just don't. And it's business. And, when something's not going right, you've got to cut immediately and not take it personal and not feel bad for them. I mean, you got to go. It's business. Otherwise, you're going to lose. So I was asking Debbie this morning, she has a flip that literally went under contract in days. And so she's doing both. She's doing acquisition of buy and hold, multi-unit, and she's also flipping and doing full, huge rehab projects. And why is that, Deb? Why are you doing both strategies?
So I like the hybrid, as I call it, strategy, because there's going to come a point in time where I want to do this full time. Okay. But however, I still want that positive cash flow or that passive income to be coming in. So that's why I do it. Additionally, I have a cousin. And this is one of the things why I also got into real estate, is because I would like to be able to show my cousin and show other family members, actually just show other younger kids how to get into this particular into real estate investing, so that you don't have to have that student loan when you go to college, and show them that there are other opportunities other than just a job. Okay. But yeah.
And what I can also share is that a lot of times we've talked about, and I wish I could take credit for the strategy, but when the good old boys from back in the day talk about real estate investing, you listen, and you listen with your ears like out, and you get as close as you can. And one of them shared with me, I said, what do you attribute your success to? If you were to do it differently, what would you do differently if you could go back? And he said, one of the greatest things that a mentor taught me way, way back in the day was that for every 2 buy and holds, whether it's single family or multi-unit, you do 1 flip, so that you are creating cash flow, financial freedom, and independence, long-term range. And then short-term range, you are rehabbing, flipping properties to get those chunks of money. Again, Debbie listened. She heard the power in this, and that has now become her strategy. And she's badass. Pardon my language. She is badass at it, and she's crushing it. Why? Because she's implementing the system. She's doing everything that we've shared about. When she has a question, she doesn't hesitate to reach out. But the thing that's the most amazing, let's talk about this rehab for 1 second, Deb. How did you find this rehab?
So again, my realtor has been wonderful to me. This is like the 3rd deal that she's brought to me. This was a divorced couple where this particular home just needed some, as I say, some loving care done to it. So she brought the deal to me. There was competition for the deal, but because she and I work well together, she provided me the insight, basically what number you need to be around, okay, where this deal would actually go through. After taking a look at it, and again, due diligence, doing the numbers, I said, okay, it's doable. Let's move forward. Okay. So that's how that, again, it to me, it all is all networking and developing your relationships with those that you've networked with. The deals will come. Okay.
So what was the sales price on this home?
I purchased it
What
for
did you purchase it for?
I purchased it for 170. It
And
needed
what was the ARV on it after repair value?
after so we did the appraisal. The initial appraisal was somewhere around 310, 320. And what I've learned thus far, and this is why I'm getting into this one, what I've learned thus far is when you're dealing with hard money lenders, sometimes they will increase the price to make sure that you get the money, okay, and it meets their criteria.
Yes.
So they will do that. However, we put this thing on the market at 270, 269.9.
And what was your rehab budget before we talk about what you actually got under contract?
Rehab budget was 40K.
And your rehab budget was 40K. What did you actually come in at on your rehab budget?
40K with the contingency.
So, Debbie, I have yet to meet an investor who comes in on time and on budget. There must be something in your water that you're drinking, because I have never met anybody that said they were going to put 40,000 in and they did 40. How? Like, I'm speechless. What are you doing to be able to do that?
So part of this has to do with, because I like to do things and be hands-on. So as a result of doing these renovations, I go around, and even if I'm just driving, I will check out sales. I'll check out stores, supply places. I've found 2 or 3 good ones that can knock Home Depot and Lowe's out their arena completely. So I deal strictly with them. When it comes to flooring, there are a couple of stores or suppliers that I'll go directly to, whether it's carpeting or hardwood flooring. But like I said, that's just me. I drive around, and if I see something, I'm going to stop and inquire and say, okay, keep that in the back of my head. So when I have to do my rehabs, I'll know how much my price point is. In addition, I have a very tight budget. So I let my contractors know that. I don't ever tell them what the full budget is.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I tell them usually the amount I want them to come in at. And most of the time, most of them will come in at that number. For those that don't, I look at what they're presenting and say yes or no. But if they're coming in at the number I want them to come in at, because they do want the job, then I'll work with them.
Have you had to deal, a lot of times, Debbie, contractors they'll come in at exactly what you ask them. But I've heard contractors share it. My husband, who is in project management, project superintendent for 20 years in commercial construction, has said it over and over again. They will do that to get the bid, to get the job. But then we have heard them say, in talking amongst themselves, where they make their profit is in change orders. So have you had any contractors that have attempted to change order you? And if so, how have you handled it?
So no, because I do a very, very detailed scope of work. And I sit down with them on day one and say, this is what we want to get done. We walk through the building or the property, and we write down what's going to be in phase 1, what's going to be in phase 2, what's going to be in phase 3. So I'm very detailed in that manner. And if there is a change order, then it's more than likely because they were delayed on something. So they have to eat that cost.
And these are all the documents that, we've been sharing together as a part of, being in the multi-unit inner circle. Are you using the scope of work that's in there in the contractor documents, or did you put together your own scope of work? What has been working for you?
I started off with what you had, and then as gone through experience, I've modified and customized it so that it works better for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So Rupert says that it seems that you are really utilizing your PM skills for managing. Great knowledge. Yes. She's crushing it, Rupert. She really is.
Tell them that in the agile.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
JP says, Tammy, you have to have options just in case. Oh my God, absolutely. I don't believe you ever put all of your eggs in one basket. I don't believe you ever own property all in one market. I believe that you diversify markets, you diversify within your own community, and then even within the acquisition itself. So we have some my husband and I have some very, very large communities, and we diversify inside the community. So we may have market rate tenants. We may have residents that are on the Section 8 program. We work with veterans. We work with some families that are in homeless transition. I work with different health organizations. We just rented to a young couple that sadly and unfortunately is infected with the HIV virus. And they have a caseworker and 2 young children. The children are not positive, which is amazing, but they're absolutely incredible. They're young, and they're working with a health agency that is helping them with careers and education, with their resumes, and is guaranteeing to support them for 2 years with their rent, with their help. And they couldn't believe that I was willing to support them and rent to them, because every single person that they went to, when they openly and willingly shared that they were HIV positive, they were like, oh my God, no, that's totally taboo. They couldn't believe that I was willing to rent to them. All they wanted was a stable home, a clean home, and a great community for their kids. And they cried the day they were moving in. It's about making a difference in the lives of others. Debbie could talk for hours about, how awesome it is to feel the way that we feel when you make a difference in their life. So Frank's got a question. He says, hey, I've met an investor from Houston who said he never puts down earnest money deposit because, say, for example, you found 5 properties, that's $5,000. Let's say it's 1,000, so that would be $5,000. He says he sees the property, makes the offer, and after doing is ARV. I'm not quite sure I understand that, Frank. Maybe it was a typo. What's your take on this? Maybe I'm not reading the question clearly. If so, Frank, I totally apologize. I have never met any realtor, any seller, or anyone that will go to signature on a letter of intent or will go to contract without an earnest money deposit of some sort. In order for, and this is law, in order for any contract to be valid, there has to be consideration given. Okay, whether that consideration is $10, let's say it's an option to purchase, whether it's $100, $1,000, or the seller may say, I want a $50,000 earnest money deposit. Most states today say that there must be consideration in order for ratification for a deal to truly be consummated. It used to be back in the old day, and this you can still Google and read it, that love, believe it or not, used to be consideration. It no longer is. But I don't understand how this individual could acquire property without an earnest money deposit. It wouldn't be a valid transaction without consideration. So I hope I didn't mess up your question too much, but I hope I maybe answered your question all at the same time. So John says, awesome, Debbie, PMP management, baby, all the way. So absolutely. That's why I wanted to interview Debbie, because she is just the woman, superwoman, and crushing it, making it happen. Now she's out, guys, looking at properties that have mold, mildew, that have been burnt out. Like, she's getting ready to play big with the big boys. Her confidence is like super big. And I'm sure after tonight, I'm going to have to, deflate her head, because her head, no, I'm only kidding. She's probably one of the most humble, reserved individuals that is always smiling, is always happy. I don't think I've ever heard anything negative come out of her mouth. And she even shared with me this morning that she actually loves her job. She loves what she does. And she knows a lot of investors don't. And you'll hear them say, oh, I'm getting into real estate investing because I can't stand my job. I want to have wealth. I want to have freedom. I don't want to have a boss anymore. I'm sick and tired of this job. I just want to quit. There are people out there that actually love what they do. And Debbie shares, over and over again, she goes, Tammy, I don't hate my job. I love what I do. I just know I want to have wealth and freedom and have other resources available if my job isn't there, because it is government, right? The government could shut down, as we know, any day, or her contract could be cut. Yeah,
Life
you
of a
can't.
contractor.
Yeah, the contract could be cut. But she wants to make a difference in her family and wants to know that they're all taken care of, and that she gets to leave a legacy for them, right? For her nephew, cousin to be able to go to college and focus on his college degree and not have to worry about college debt, while simultaneously sharing with him how he can create financial freedom, right? My son just separated from special forces in the military. My daughter's still active duty. And I want to be able to share with my son that you can create veterans programs, you can create nonprofit, you can go out and rehab your own property. It doesn't have to be government branded, government regimented. There are ways to create it. There are people out there just like you that are working full-time jobs that are doing this. How are they doing it? They're no different than you and I. They have the same 24 hours in a day, the same 7 days in a week that you and I do, but it's because they're committed. Like Debbie said to me this morning, she said, Tammy, I'm going to ask her the question again. Why real estate? Why are you this passionate, this committed? Why are you doing this?
So for me, it's a way to serve my community. I personally just have a servant's heart. So when I see that I'm able to take a home, renovate it, give it that TLC, or give it that, make it so that it looks new, um, and that someone is able to move into that home, and they're as excited as I was when I actually first saw it. To me, that's just a feeling that's not describable. Um, and that's why I said that's why this is my passion, so to speak. I'm giving, I'm just serving, and that's what I like to do.
So your heart is in the right place. And that's one of the reasons why I love you so much. And um, would you mind sharing what your profit's going to be on this rehab that you just put under contract?
So the net profit will be 40 to 45K.
That sucks. That's it?
Yeah. But let me see, we went to closing in February, and like I said, did some pre-marketing on it. Uh, this is what, June in May. So within a week, it was gone.
So, Debbie, that means 4 months, right? 4 months,
Yes.
40,000.
Yes.
The average American makes that in a year. That's average. Did you know that? The average salary in the US is 40,000. You made that in 4 months. That's 10 G's a month.
Mm-hmm.
10 G's. So are you going to go out and buy a new car? Are you going to out and go buy Gucci shoes and Michael Kors bags and take a $10,000 cruise? I mean, you got to celebrate. You've been working your butt off. What do
Yeah,
you mean, no?
I'll celebrate by probably going someplace relaxing and being on the beach, do a spa day, something
I
like
know,
that.
fishing on the banks of the river
Yeah,
with your fishing pole in your backpack while
yeah,
on your motorcycle.
exactly. That would be perfect.
Absolutely.
But
So
no,
what are you going to do with that 40,000?
so of course I'm a believer in tithing, so 10% always I have to give out my 10%. Okay. From that, I just reinvest it for the next one. And then also part of my hybrid strategy is to pay down any mortgages that I have on the properties that I currently have buy and hold on, so that within the 2-3 year period, they're paid off. That's my objective for all my buy and holds. I set a criteria of 5, but I strive for 3.
So what's next?
What's next? We've already identified, and when I say we, that means primarily me and another investor. We have identified 3 properties. One, or actually 2 of them, have mold and mildew damage, which is another avenue I found is very It may require some intensive work, but I've connected with someone who does that for a living. So we're looking at properties there. And then I also like another little niche that I found, which is identifying properties for assisted living facilities and being able to renovate them to per their accommodations. So right now, like I said, we have three potentials in the pipeline already, even though I know I'm supposed to take a break. So,
But it's hard to take a break when you love what you do. And I would say at this point you're addicted. You're an addict.
yeah.
You're a multi-unit, cash flow, passionate, serving, addict. And I just want to share with you, in case you didn't know, there is no recovery program. There is no, AA or RE, real estate REA. It's just simply the way that your life is going to be now.
Yeah.
But it'll just continue to get better. I'm an addict too, by the way. So, hi, my name is Tammy, and I'm a real estate addict. Yeah, I've been in. I won't go into recovery. So, Carlton says, Debbie, what are your monthly goals?
So it depends on where I am in the phase. So as I complete this phase, which is having all the buy and holds rented out and going to closing on this flip, the monthly goal is to find another property, take a break, find another property. Okay. But personally, for me, I don't really break it down by month because I know this is a process. So I say, for me, I set my goals every 12 months or annually. Maybe I want to do 3 flips a year, and then, like Tammy mentioned, purchase 1 or 2 buy and holds. In my case, things kind of went faster than expected, so now I'm going to do another buy and hold multi-unit.
And it's going to be a bigger one. I mean,
Yes.
I already know. We've been talking about it, so it's gonna. My goal as a coach, as a mentor, is to keep you constantly just on the threshold of being uncomfortable and outside of your comfort zone, and pushing you and nudging you to take a challenge, to take a risk, and step outside of what you already know. She's already done a 3 unit. She's already done flipping. She's doing all of that. She's mastered that. She's great at that. And she could stay there. There's nothing wrong with that. She could accumulate, 5 3 units or 10 3 units and have a very nice little portfolio. She could probably quit her job and have enough cash flow for the rest of her life. But when, there's this little saying, when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. And so constantly pushing yourself and stepping outside of those boundaries, that's where growth is. That's where we grow as individuals. That's where we grow in business. So yes, is it a little bit scary to step out that big? Yes, it is. But she knows she can do it. And we'll ride to closing on the bikes together. And, it's an amazing journey. And, would love for you guys to all be a part of it. Alexis put up the link for June 23rd, 24th. Please check it out. We would love to have you come. It's going to be 2 intense days. You'll actually get to meet Debbie. You'll actually get to see, I'm going to try to convince her to let us, go by and see some of her properties along with some others. So I can show you, small, medium, and large and different variations. Would certainly love for you to be there. All right, let's take one more question. I want to be very, very respectful of time. I still have another couple of questions for Debbie that I want her to share with you. Sandy says, where do you get funding to buy multi-unit if you do not have enough money?
So, like Tammy said, the money will be there. I have done deals and I have no idea where the money is coming from. I just go ahead, like she said, just put it under contract. Networking, I've identified some brokers who could help me out. So I always inquire with them, well, what am I eligible for? Like I said, mentioned before, you have your JV partner. there are a lot of outlets. I've even gone on the internet and identified brokers from the internet and talked to them and see what they had to offer. Um, there, and I know Baltimore City, it can, a lot of people or corporations may not want to invest in Baltimore City or loan you the funds, but I find finding the local brokers or those who are local hard
Yes.
money lenders has worked
Yes.
best for me because they know the area.
Yep. And Sandy, to share with you, it actually gets very subjective because it depends on the asset. You know, does the asset need revitalization and rehab, or is it occupying and cash flowing? That is going to be indicative of the type of funding you're going to go after. If the property needs rehabbed and it's not cash flowing, then a JV partner, equity partner, or hard money lending or private lending may be the way to go. If the property's cash flowing, you definitely, and maybe it has a little bit of deferred maintenance, you're not going to use hard money to acquire that type of a property. You're probably going to go to a local community bank. We don't use big bank. It's not how you're going to get funding. So understanding money is something we go very, very deep into. It's, you know, understanding the asset and then understanding your intention for that asset and then understanding what is the best type of funding for the exit strategy to take out that asset. I wish I could say it was one size fit all, that it was totally a black and white world, but it's not. It's very, very subjective and it's very, very asset specific. So, Debbie, if you look back over the last 10, 15 years, or even the last 2 years, what would you have done differently? What would you have liked to have done differently if you could do it over, knowing what you know now?
Probably start earlier with this whole process. I think I would be a lot further ahead than where I want to be or closer to where I want to be. As mentioned, one of my goals is to be able to take early retirement. So, and just do this full time. So that that would have been what I would have done differently.
And you know, the pace that you're on right now, though, it's very manageable. You're not chaotic. You're not flipping out, freaking out. You still have good color in your skin when we talk, and you know your eyes aren't being held up by toothpicks. So I know this is doable, and I know it's manageable. And so you know anybody can create this in their life if they're just willing to step up and step out and play full out. So again, if you want to join us on June the 23rd, 24th for a 2-day multi-unit event, you'll get the opportunity to meet Debbie live, and we're going to do a bus tour. You're actually going to get to see a few of her properties. Any more questions that you have, we'll be more than happy to answer them. But I also wanted to share with you next Tuesday, same place, same channel, same time, 8 o'clock, Tuesdays with Tammy. I'm actually going to be interviewing another Inner Circle multi-unit member who is doing very, very large acquisitions. We're talking 20 plus units. And to boot, these guys are only 26 and 28 years old. So totally different mindset, absolutely no fear. And their story is incredible. They're just taking a very, very different approach and a very different journey. And I wanted to be able to share that with you as well. So we will make sure that we get that up and posted right away for you. Same thing, you're just going to get a link. You can go in and register for that webinar. There's not going to be any charge to attend, just a different conversation. We'll certainly share this with you guys. We certainly hope to see you on June 23rd and June 24th. Debbie, if my last question to you, if there was anything that you could share with someone just getting started, what would be one nugget of information, advice that you would share with them? Would it be to work with a coach, mentor, to be a part of a group, to try to learn this alone, or would it be something totally different?
So I'm going to say this. Always, for your first step, work with someone who has the experience, or can be your mentor, like Tammy's my mentor slash coach. Um, because there are a lot of pitfalls that you're not going to be aware of. And if you're doing it on your own, you're going to think, oh, well, I just can't go, I can't move forward. You want to walk in the steps that where someone has already walked before. Just follow their footsteps. So I would say just connect with someone who is a mentor to you, who has the experience like Tammy does, um, to actually get you to walk you through this journey. Um, Also keep in mind, yes, I'm working a full-time job. Yes, this is my passion. But if you really want to do this and this is something for you, it's going to take commitment. You must have that. You must be dedicated. Discipline, yeah, you're going to need that too. But as you go through this process, you're going to get more discipline because you're going to gain more experience and therefore know, okay. And again, if you're walking with a coach or a mentor, you're going to know what the signs are if you're going to encounter a situation and how to easily resolve it. So that's what I would say on that.
Thank you. Debbie, you're amazing. I love you. I so cherish and appreciate you. I'm so proud of you. Keep reaching for the stars, but reach the moon. And until next Tuesday, same time, same channel, we're signing off. Starbucks is shutting the doors. They actually just walked up to me. I didn't know they closed at 9. I thought it was 10. So
Wow.
I'm going to be signing off. Thank you guys for the most amazing questions in the house tonight. Can't wait to talk to you last night. Debbie, I will talk to you bright and early tomorrow morning. Goodbye, everybody. Mwah. Love ya, love ya, love ya, love ya. Take care. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye bye, everybody.